Hello, people. Um, I just figured I'd give a quick video about this because I spent a lot of money and a lot of time trying to figure this out. Now, a lot of people might think it's a non issue, but for me, it makes me kind of crazy. There's some shooting games out there where mouse and keyboard is just, it's supreme. I'm sorry, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm a lifetime analog guy, old, PlayStation, and decided to start building my own computers, stuff like that. And I would play games like Arma and just get owned by people. The analog is just, it's not good enough. But that being said, WSAD on a keyboard, when you're moving your character, you can't do certain things like this. See these tiny movements? You can't do this with a keyboard. You get this, and there's probably some ways to do that. But also, when you try to fly something with a dual analog controller versus a mouse and keyboard, again, you have the same issues. You don't get that range of motion and that natural fluid flow from variable 360-degree angles and analog sensitivities and triggers, triggers with your rudders and your pedals and your cyclics and whatever you decide to apply it to. So I've gone through, every iteration of kind of systems to try to get me just like a controller in my left hand and a mouse and keyboard in my right, but easily make it swappable so that when I decide to fly my chopper or drive a car or something that I prefer to use the dual analog stick for, I can just swap between the two. So I was trying to do this and then the mouse in my right hand, and then whenever I want to go to my chopper, I grab the other controller, but honestly, it just turns into a huge pain in the ass. And then you end up with these weird profiles and things like WASD that just seem to be, sometimes they cause conflicts and issues. So at the end of the day, honestly, what I decided to do was just tuck in with my controller like this. Left hand, I've got buttons and stuff mapped to this, which are great. Like I'll press or I'll double tap for my push to talk and radio channels, and some of these might be mapped to settings in WASD to have double taps and holds and stuff like that. But this is analog. It's always analog, and it's got analog sensitivity. And then on my right hand, I'll just hold my mouse. So I've got the best of both worlds, in my opinion, and I never have to touch a keyboard. The keyboard is just over here. So if you're, struggling with trying to make that transition from, dedicated PC play or, Xbox, PlayStation guy, and you're like, man, I see it. It's sorry, it's indisputable. When you see it, you see it. There's no escape. The mouse is just far more accurate. If you try to make that transition, maybe this will help you decide. I've tried this. It's not natural. At the end of the day, everything is set up at 90-degree angles. So you build this controller with squares. So you got a square and a square, 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 square. So, like here, you have your analog and then you have your thumb. So this is natural. See that movement? 45 degrees. You can't build that with the Proteus controller. You can build something 90 degrees to the right and 90 degrees straight down. So this does not feel good or natural, and it instinctively makes you pull your hand to the side. You don't want that. You don't want that when you're playing a game. You want to feel natural. You want to feel comfortable. You don't want your thumb to start cramping on you because you have to move it in weird directions. And this is a great idea. I love this. I really do. But for me to have to drop this and switch to my controller when I jump into a helicopter, it's annoying. However, if I just want to let go of my mouse with my right hand and my controller's already in my hand, simple, easy switch. So just if you're having, that debate, how do I do this? Just analog in your left hand. Get a software. I love this software, WASD. I map custom, configurations, double taps, holds, buttons to the D-pad, into L clicks sometimes. make sure you see that little no symbol, little white no symbol. Make sure that a button, that if you're deciding to use a button as a, like a mouse, like this is like a right click, make sure that you always select this mute option, because if the game is trying to recognize it as both a keyboard button and an analog controller button at the same time, it can cause the game to, switch back and forth between like, what the fuck am I doing? Am I a keyboard or am I a mouse? And it can cause you issues and hesitations and, stutters. So make sure that you're using that mute option on any button that you're using as a keyboard button. See, since I've got that set to left bracket, I muted it. That way it disregards the analog input entirely, just for the button, not the stick. But I hope that helps some people. Anyway, have a good one.